Hello, and welcome to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. My name is Cam, and thank you for joining me. Today, I will be reading Genesis chapter 33. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children unto Leah, and unto Rachel, and unto the two handmaids. And he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph hindermost. And he passed over before them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell on his neck, and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw the woman and the children, and said, Who are those with thee? And he said, The children which God hath graciously given thy servant. Then the handmaidens came near, they and their children, and they bowed themselves. And Leah also with her children came near, and bowed themselves. And after came Joseph near, and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. And he said, What meanest thou by all this drove which I met? And he said, These are to find grace in the sight of my Lord. And Esau said, I have enough, my brother, keep that thou hast unto thyself. And Jacob said, Nay, I pray thee. If now I have found grace in thy sight, then receive my present at my hand, for therefore I have seen thy face, as though I had seen the face of God, and thou wast pleased with me. Take, I pray thee, my blessing that is brought to thee, because God hath dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, Let us take our journey, and let us go, and I will go before thee. And he said unto him, My Lord knoweth that the children are tender, and the flocks and herds with young are with me. And if men should overdrive them one day, all the flock will die. Let my Lord, I pray thee, pass over before his servant, and I will lead on softly, according as the cattle that goeth before me, and the children be able to endure, until I come unto my Lord unto Seir. And Esau said, Let me now leave with thee some of the folk that are with me. And he said, What needeth it? Let me find grace in the sight of my Lord. So Esau returned that day on his way unto Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth, and built him an house, and made booths for his cattle. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. And Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Pandanaram, and pitched his tent before the city. And he bought a parcel of a field, where he had spread his tent, at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar, and called it Elohel Elohel. That is the end of chapter 33. Summarizing chapter 33. Jacob was approached by Esau and his 400 men. As Esau approached, Jacob lined up the women and children. He divided them up according to the baby mother or wife, or, you know, the baby mother with the children, and lined them up. He put the handmaidens with their children first, Leah with her children second, and Rachel and Joseph behind Leah last. Jacob himself walked around them to the front and bowed 7 times as Esau was walking towards him. When Esau approached him, he hugged him, wept, and kissed him. And he asks about the women and children. He says, Who are these? Who is this? And Jacob says, These are the children that God blessed me with. And then Esau asks him, What are these animals? Because now he's received the droves of animals, and he says, This is a gift to find your favor. And Esau turns it down. He says, Hey, you don't have to worry about it. I have enough. And Jacob insists. After some insisting, Esau takes the gift and he goes, All right, well, let's go. You can follow behind me. And I guess he's thinking we'll go together. But Jacob says, Hey, I have tender flock. I have, weak, frail flock and children. They're at risk of dying easily. You just go ahead and I'll walk behind you. Esau goes, Well, let me leave some of my men with you. And Jacob says, You don't have to do that. I just wanted to find your favor. Then Jacob gets to Succoth. He builds a house and a structure for his cattle. After he builds the house, he goes to Shalem and Shechem in Canaan and sets his tent up. And then he buys a parcel of land that his tent is on from Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And then he builds an altar. Some highlights from Genesis chapter 33. Jacob's fear reveals his intent. So Esau and 400 men are approaching him, his wives, the handmaidens, and all of the children. Jacob is unsure of Esau's intention because the last interaction or the last dealing that they had with each other was in chapter 27, verse 42. Rebekah told Jacob to leave, and Esau planned to kill him. And then chapter 32, verse 3. Jacob told the messenger to give Esau the message that he's on his way home. The messengers return saying, "Yeah, we talked to Esau and he's coming with 400 men," but they don't say he's in a good mood. They don't say uh, they don't say anything. Maybe Esau didn't give him any information. Maybe he wanted to torture him a little. That seems like something a brother would do, right? In 32 verse 7, Jacob was afraid and distressed. In 32 verse 11, Jacob fears Esau will smite him and the mothers with the children. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed from chapter 32 verse 11 to 33 verse 1. He lines up the handmaids and kids first, Leah behind the handmaids, and then Rachel behind Leah. This is against an unknown threat, an unknown incident. So Jacob is terrified that his brother is going to react badly to him, and he lines up the women almost by importance. And the handmaidens aren't even mentioned by name anymore after they birth the children. They're not even named, they're just the handmaids. That just shows that just because they were taken to wife again, even if they have children, that did not change their status. The way these women entered this man's life is the way he sees them. That's how this was for Jacob. In chapter 29 verse 30, the Bible explicitly states Jacob loved Rachel more than he loved Leah. Specifically and explicitly. Chapter 29 verse 31, Leah was hated. In chapter 29 verse 32, when Leah gave birth to Reuben, she says, "Now my husband will love me." Chapter 29 verse 18 through 27, Jacob agreed to work 7 years for Rachel, but was tricked into marrying Leah. Leah was an obstacle, or she was like a thing he had to go through to get the woman that he really wanted. He had to maintain this agreement with Leah to get to Rachel, the one he loved. And when time got when there was a time to show and demonstrate who he wanted to protect, it was clear. Even though Leah had all those children and she thought it would make him love her more, it didn't. When there was an unknown threat and Jacob had to protect, he was going to protect Rachel and her one son. So that's how that went for Leah and Rachel. The second highlight, Esau's disposition. Esau ran to embrace Jacob. Jacob was expecting for his brother to still be holding on to something from 20 years ago. And Esau, he didn't try to hold it against Jacob. They didn't rehash what happened. They were just brothers that came together and were happy to see each other. He wept. Esau wept when he saw his brother. He's his twin. 20 years without seeing your twin brother. In chapter 33, verse 15, sorry, he says, "Let me leave my men with you." So he even wanted to protect Jacob immediately. He didn't even have to try to hash out the old part where he wanted to kill him. Hey, let bygones be bygones. I know I wanted to murder you last time I saw you, but I'm glad you're doing good and you have a beautiful family. The last highlight: Jacob gave credit to God when God did not give him that blessing specifically. Now we see where Isaac, his father, was blessed when he was in Gerar and there's a famine. He planted some crops and he received 100-fold. And it says explicitly in that text, because God blessed him. But in chapter 33, verse 11, when Jacob is trying to give his brother these animals, and his brother says, I don't need them, I have enough. And Jacob says, please take them because God hath dealt graciously with me. He's giving God the credit for this, but Jacob did not receive exceeding wealth until he did something dishonest. In chapter 30, verse 37 through 43, this is just documenting how he orchestrated the mating habits to produce cattle that had spots or roan colored or multicolored. In chapter 30, verse 32 through 34, Jacob and Laban had an agreement that Jacob would get the wages of speckled and spotted sheep, right? But because he had been herding for such a long time, he knew that some of these branches could produce different types of offspring. So he told him, hey, let me get the spotted ones. And then in chapter 30, verse 37 through 43, he took these plants and he put them in the drinking water. He put them near the animals when they were mating, and the animals that he bred were the stronger ones. He would do this to the stronger animals and then get all these animals that were spotted and speckled. And then it says in chapter 30, verse 43, and the man increased exceedingly, and manservants, and men servants, and cattle. And when we look at chapter 30, verse 26 through 30, Jacob was to provide for his own house and move away. So in verse 26 through 30, he doesn't have his own money. It wasn't until chapter 30, verse 37 through 43, he orchestrated his own wealth. He didn't ask God. God did not bless him with that. He did that on his own through deception. And then he gave credit to God. So that's just uh, that's an example. God did not strike him down right away. God did not take away his wealth because he wasn't honest, but he put something on God that God didn't do. That's why when I say this is an account of something that happened, this is a documentation of what people did. That's exactly what this is. I appreciate you for watching. And even that one man, the White Raptor Ministries, I even appreciate you because you know what? You're keeping me on point, holding on to my belief system. It is a bit of a labor of pain, but there is an art form in demonstrating how to hold on to your faith. And I'm just thankful that I have the opportunity to do that. Well, I appreciate you for joining me. I'll be reading chapter 34 next.